Hey guys, we are back with day 2 of the 3-day health challenge. Today is all about lifestyle, and a couple of things on video number 1. If you have not seen that, go back and watch that. That'll tell you who I am. I'll tell you a little bit about my life story. So if you haven't seen it, go back and watch that first and then come back to this video. I've also changed the video because I noticed that I like to use a lot of hand gestures. And when I have it narrow, you can't see my hand gestures. So I've changed that up, and you're welcome. You now get to see all the things I do with my hands when I talk. So, okay, today is about lifestyle factors. And you may be wondering, what in the heck is lifestyle? And what does that have to do with health? Because quite frankly, you just want to feel good and you want to kind of look good when you're by the pool this summer, right? Well, let me tell you, lifestyle factors have a ton to do with how you look and especially with how you feel. So lifestyle factors, let me read a description to you so that we are on the same page so that you know exactly what lifestyle is and what I mean when I say that word. So lifestyle factors are the modifiable habits and ways of life that can greatly influence overall health and well-being. So in other words, they're all the things in your life that you do or surround yourself with, habits that you do that have nothing to do with calories, and yet they still dramatically influence your weight loss and your health. So off the top of my head, here's some: sleep, stress, smoking, where you live, what kind of work environment you have, social interactions with friends, what kind of relationships you have. All of those are lifestyle factors that, I mean, they have no calories. You get a bad night of sleep, well, so what? That sleep has no calories. And yet you may find that the scale starts creeping up when you don't get good sleep. So yes, there's no calories, but it still affects your well-being, your health, and yes, your weight loss, if that is your goal. So today I want to dive right into the top 2 that I see with my clients, and that is stress and sleep. Sleep and stress, those are the 2 biggies that everyone seems to have some issues with, and the way I like to view it is you don't have problems with it, you just have room for growth, room for improvement in those areas. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's jump straight into sleep. Now, sleep was a huge issue for me. Again, if you watched video 1, you know that I competed in a bunch of figure competitions way back when. I also had an 18-month-old child. I also was I ran a business. I had daughters and a husband and all kinds of stuff going on. And what I found was that I was completely exhausted, but I could not get sleep at night. I would lay there. And I know you've been there before. You just lay there and your body aches because you're so tired, but your brain just won't shut down and you cannot get to sleep. A lot of doctors call this wired but tired. And man, I had that bad every single night, and it's so frustrating. And of course, thinking about, oh gosh, I can't get to sleep, makes you more wired, and you even more can't go to sleep. So that was a huge issue for me. Secondarily, my other sleep issue was at night, I would wake up oddly at 2, 3 a.m. every single night. And it was so annoying. I couldn't figure out, I am tired, I'm exhausted, I need this sleep. I have finally gotten to sleep. And then I'm waking up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. and laying there for a good, half hour, maybe more, not able to go back to sleep again. And I didn't know what that was all about. So those are 2 of the sleep issues that I personally had back in the day, and I had to do a lot of different things to change my habits to get better sleep, and I'm going to cover some of those with you today. In fact, the biggest ones that worked for me. So first tip for you, well, I'll call it a pre-tip. If you have a piece of paper handy, great, get it out, get a pen. There's going to be some stuff you may want to write down. Also, if you're like me, just get out your phone and type it in the notes section of your phone. That's how I do everything. Otherwise, I would have Post-its everywhere. So anyways, all right, first tip. Reduce the use of bright screens before bed. Ooh, that's a big one. That's a big one, huh? We are all on our iPads, our phones, our computers, our laptops, we're on them constantly. In front of the TV, that's another one. If you're not on your computer, you might be in front of the TV. But all those bright screens staring at us emit something that's called blue light. And this blue light is a natural thing, and it through our eyes, tells our brains that it is daytime, and we should be awake, and we should be alert. And the problem is that we're on these iPads and computers and iPhones and everything else at 8, 9, 10, 11, midnight, and we should not be having blue light shined in our eyes at that time of night. So if you're on an iPad or your laptop late at night, or even, at 8 o'clock and you go to bed at 9, still, within an hour of going to bed, you need to be able to shut those screens off. And I know a bunch of you just went, that's never gonna happen. Nice try, it's not gonna happen. I get it, I understand. So there are a couple of things that you can do. I can't help you with your TV, but if you're on an iPad or an iPhone, one of the new updates coming out, I've heard rumors, is going to have a timer on it that in your time zone, when it gets to be a certain time at night when the sun goes down, it will change the type of light or the color of light emitted from the screens to be less blue light. So that's gonna help. Another thing you can do on iPad and iPhone is scroll up from the bottom of your screen and change the brightness adjustment. Turn it way down low. You can have it almost all the way to the bottom and it's not an issue, okay? So get those screens nice and dark at night. The other thing you could do if you're on a regular PC, they have an app called Flux. I believe it's spelled F.LUX. And that is an app that you can download on your PC, and that will do the same thing as what I'm hoping the new update with iPhones will do. And that is, as the sun goes down in your time zone, it switches the light, less blue light and more, I think it's amber or something is the color. But anyways, the key is to get away from that blue light being emitted into your eyes and telling your brain that it's daytime and we should be awake. Okay, so that's a huge tip. Please do it. It's real easy to change the dimmer on your screens. And quite frankly, think about it. If you're on a screen right until the moment you go to bed, challenge yourself. This is a 3-day health challenge. So challenge yourself tonight. Hey, 10 minutes before I'm gonna go lay down in bed and go to sleep, I'm gonna shut these screens off. And then once you successfully do that, because I know you can, it's 10 minutes. The next night, maybe do 15 minutes. You see where I'm going with this? So inch your way closer to being an hour before bed, you're not in front of a screen. Okay? Give that a shot, see how it goes. I promise you can fall asleep without the TV on. I know you can. Okay? We just have to retrain. Remember, lifestyle. These are habits. Okay? And what happens with habits, we start doing them over and over again and they become a habit, but all we have to do is replace that habit with something else and do it long enough, and that new thing becomes a new habit. So that's what we're doing here, and that's what this challenge is about, okay? Tip number 2 for sleep is part of telling your brain that it is nighttime is also keeping your bedroom completely dark. So I want you, when you go to bed tonight and you're laying there 10 minutes with no screen time, I want you to look around and see what kind of light is coming into your bedroom. Sometimes we leave the drapes open or the blinds open and we need to fully close them. Some people have really, they might have night lights. Some people might have their alarm clocks that are quite bright. So I want you to look at that, and again, any light is telling our brains that it's time to be up. And that's the opposite of what we want when we're going to bed. So I want you to take a look at anything emitting light, close the blinds, close the drapes, turn your alarm clock around. You don't need to see that, right? If you have an alarm set, it'll go off at the right time, but you don't need to see that time. Put a shirt over it. Just cover that up so that it's as dark as possible. Okay? And that may mean, if this is a real issue for you, this may mean that you need to go get some kind of blackout curtains or something to black out. For example, the house we're in right now, we have a skylight in the master bath, which opens up into the master bedroom. And definitely shine some light in there. So one of the things that we may be doing is putting something up there in the skylight to cover up that light. All right, so take a look at any light coming into your bedroom tonight and eliminate that. All right, so sleep, tip number 3. Okay, so we were staying at a place this last summer, and we had some really close neighbors, and they loved to party, like way late, like 2 a.m. they were still partying on a Wednesday night. Like, it was crazy. They were up constantly, always talking, always It was really horrible for our sleep. So number 1, I got some really awesome earplugs, the kind that you squish, like if you're shooting a gun, you squish them, stick them in your ear, and they expand out, and they completely block out noise. And then I also got a noisemaker. So this is something that you can do too if noise is in the house, or a sleeping dog next to you, or the kids are making noise, whatever. 2 things: get earplugs, and then the other one is do some sort of white noise maker, whether that's getting like a room, what do you call those things? It's like a room filter, air filter. You can do those. Those emit kind of that background noise, low-level noise. Or if you plug in like a docking station, your iPhone, to the docking station by your bed, you can always put that. There's all kinds of apps out there that are noisemakers. You can do natural sounds like rainfall or the forest, waves crashing on the ocean, or even just some that emit kind of this low-level noise. And it's enough to kind of block what you're hearing next door. Okay, so sometimes it's not about just the light coming in our eyes, but it's also what our other senses are feeling, and that would be noise that we're talking about here. Okay, so those are your tips for sleep. All right, so moving on, we need to talk about stress, because stress is a huge one, and stress will also hugely affect your sleep. Funny how all this stuff kind of ties in, huh? So stress, let's talk about it from a biological level first, and I'll be real brief here. I won't get all sciencey on you, but basically stress in your body looks like this. When you get stressed out, whether it's someone's attacking me, or oh my God, my boss is on my back and I got to pick up the kids, that kind of stress, either way, your adrenals pump out something, a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is both good and bad. It can do great things for your body, and it can also be harmful to your health as well, depending, of course, on the situation. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. When your adrenals kick out a bunch of cortisol all at once, really high levels of cortisol are floating through your body, and your insulin is low. So you haven't eaten a lot of sugar, your insulin's low. That actually is really can be good for you as long as you spike that cortisol and then you let it drop later. It's really great for you. So when does that happen? That could happen when we're eating well and we're working out with high intensity, because working out is a stress on the body. So when you're working out with high intensity, your adrenals will shoot out a bunch of cortisol. It will spike, and you have low insulin because you're eating well. And then you're done with your workout 40 minutes later, let's say, cortisol dips all the way back down again. You've just done perfectly what you want cortisol to do. It will burn fat, and it will help you build muscle and maintain muscle when it's released in those kind of environments and those factors. All right, so when is cortisol bad? Cortisol does bad things for our health when it's constantly being spurred out by the adrenals. The adrenals are constantly having to pump out cortisol, pump it out, pump it out, pump it out, because the adrenals, basically, they get tired out. They don't have the nutrients to keep producing that much cortisol. And your body and all the cells being exposed to high levels of cortisol all the time is not good either. In fact, it can break down muscle. It can cause your hunger to increase. It can cause you to store fat rather than burn it. And if you have this constant state of cortisol and you have high insulin, meaning we're not eating well, we're stressed out, and so we're grabbing sugar or carbs, very starchy things when we're stressed, That's the worst combination for cortisol. Okay, so if you are eating starchy stuff and you have high stress, that's like a perfect recipe for storing fat. All right, so let's talk about that state there, because I think that's going to be pretty important. Let me give you 3 tips for dealing with cortisol in a good way and get it working for us rather than against us. Number 1 is to eat or drink protein and carbohydrates right after you've worked out. So let's say if you're one of my clients, you come work out with me, we have a warm-up, we have your workout, we have a cool down and stretching. We have worked out intensely while you are here. Well, as soon as you leave my gym, you go straight home and you get something to eat consisting of a lean protein and nice starchy carbs. Okay, so in a perfect world, within 30 minutes of working out intensely, you would be eating that protein and the carbohydrate. Now, let's not get anal and stress out. Get it? Stress out. We're talking about stress. Anyway, don't stress out about getting that protein and carb in you within 30 minutes if you can't do it. All right, just get it in as soon as you can. If that's an hour later, then so be it. In a perfect world, it would be within 30 minutes. You would get that protein on board because remember, we want to spike the cortisol with the high intensity workout, but then we want it to dip way down right after. And how we do that is by feeding your body and letting it build back those muscle cells, okay? So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to ditch the long endurance duration cardio. So unless you are training for a marathon, an Ironman, some kind of cycling event, if you're just looking to feel better when you're at the pool and look better, then this is advice for you. Stop with all of that long duration cardio, okay? For right now, I would rather you switch and try some high intensity training. So specifically that's HIIT training, HIIT, which is high intensity interval training. So it would be about 20 minutes in length, this session. You would give it all you've got, you would sprint, you would cycle, you would go until your lungs and your legs and other muscles are burning, and then you drop it back down, and maybe you'd walk for a little bit, and you'd let the heart rate come back down, and then you'd sprint all out, and then you'd let the heart rate come back down, and you would keep doing that until you reach 15-20 minutes. All right, so if you are doing long duration cardio, I would advise that you take at least one of those days that you're doing long duration, maybe even 2 of them, and replace them with just 1 day of doing the high intensity interval training. All right, there's lots of reasons for that, but remember we're talking about managing your stress, managing your cortisol. So for that purpose, think about long duration cardio. Let's say you go for an hour-long run, and you're hoofing it and you're pushing and you've got this cortisol released at this moderate to high level for a long duration of time, an hour, maybe even longer. That's the opposite of what we want. We want to spike it and then bring it back down. And we can spike it by doing the interval training, and then you're done. You're done in 15 to 20 minutes, and boom, it comes back down. That's what we're looking for. We're trying to retrain your body on how to pump out that cortisol, okay? So tip number 2, replace your long duration cardio with interval training. If you have never done interval training before, you should only do maybe 1 session per week to start with, because again, it is high intensity and it's hard, okay? It's hard. So, but it's over quick. That's what I tell myself every time. Okay, this is really hard and I'm dying, but I'll be done in just a few more minutes. So replace 1 time per week and work your way up to doing maybe up to maximum 3 times per week of that interval training cardio. Okay? Tip number 3, let's move on. This one's a tough one. We need to review your use of caffeine. I know, I love my coffee, I love Diet Coke, I know I shouldn't, but I love caffeine. So I understand that asking you to look at your caffeine gets you a little guarded and a little bit like, step off lady, this is my coffee. I get it, I totally get it. But again, if you are having massive issues getting to sleep at night, your stress is really, really high, we have to look at your caffeine. So again, I challenge you to look at how much caffeine are you drinking in a day. Could you go a day or 2 with no caffeine without having withdrawal symptoms? when I was training for my competitions, I don't even know how much caffeine I was doing. I was doing 3 cups of coffee in the morning. Then I was doing these fat burners that have caffeine in them. Then I was doing an amino drink while I was working out that had caffeine in it. And then in the afternoon, to even get off the couch, I was doing yet more coffee. And then I wondered why I couldn't go to sleep at night. I know, it's crazy. So I want you to look at your caffeine usage as well. I want you to really look at it, and I think you need to start adding some boundaries as to what you will allow in your life as far as caffeine goes. So perhaps you need to get rid of that mid-afternoon caffeine dump. Go baby steps. I'm not saying you have to jump all extreme on me here. I mean, maybe you get a coffee every afternoon, so maybe switch that coffee to a half calf, all right? And then do that for maybe a week, and then switch to a decaf, and then switch it all together to no coffee in the afternoon. I know when I was trying to get rid of the caffeine and really control how much I was doing there, I had to do baby steps, because I honestly, if you take away my caffeine, I would have been flat out on the ground, massive headache, no energy. It would have been really miserable. So I just did what I said there. I did half calf, then I reduced, then in the morning I went from 3 cups to 2 cups only, and then those 2 cups, the second one was decaf, and then I went to 2 cups of decaf, and then I got rid of it altogether. Now, I still drink caffeine and I drink coffee today, but it's much more manageable, and I have never let it get to the extremes that I did when I was competing, because I don't need them. I have plenty of energy, and to me, that's a marker of health. You have good energy without using artificial substances. That's health right there. And that's what we're looking for, and that's what I challenge you to do today. So I hope you take all the steps that we've talked about for both sleep and stress, and you apply them to your life. And I would love, love, love it if you respond via email, which should have come to you, because how did you find this video otherwise? But respond to me via email and let me know how you're doing, and let me know if you've tried any of these steps and how it is working out for you. So stay tuned. Tomorrow you'll get one more email, because we've got video number 3 coming along, and that one is going to be awesome, because that one's all about mindset. And mindset is huge. I told you in the last video, nutrition is 80% of your equation of what you look like. But I gotta tell you, it's more like mindset is 100% of this thing, because without the right mindset, you're not gonna implement any of this. Because let's be frank, some of this is kind of hard, and it's pushing your boundaries, and it's pushing you to do some things that you don't necessarily wanna do. So without the right mindset, it's not gonna happen. So stay tuned tomorrow. That's what we're talking about. Thank you.